The wind screamed across the Afghan plateau like a warning from God himself. Maya Chen pressed her eye against the scope, her breath crystallizing in the thin mountain air at 11,000 feet. 1,247 meters downrange, through an 8-inch gap between two mud walls, stood the man who had killed 43 American soldiers in the past 6 months. Her finger rested on the trigger. Behind her, she could hear the whispers of her own team, the men she had saved twice already, the men who wanted her gone. "She's going to get us all killed," someone muttered into their radio, not bothering to switch channels. The crosshairs danced. Her hands trembled. For the first time in her life, doubt crawled into her chest like poison. This was not how it was supposed to be. 72 hours earlier, Maya Chen had stepped off a Chinook helicopter onto forward operating base wire with a duffel bag, a custom rifle case, and a secret that would make her the most controversial operator in SEAL team history. She was 17 years old. The rotor wash kicked up dust devils across the landing zone as she walked toward the Tactical Operations Center, her boots crunching on gravel that had been bleached white by years of desert sun. The temperature was 104 degrees. The FOB smelled like diesel fuel, sweat, and the particular kind of tension that comes from being surrounded by people who want to kill you. Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Stone stood waiting outside the TOC, arms crossed over a chest that looked like it had been carved from granite. He was 42 years old, with 24 years in special operations and a face that had forgotten how to smile sometime around his third deployment. When he saw Maya approaching, his jaw tightened. "You've got to be kidding me," he said to Lieutenant Commander James Reardon, who stood beside him holding a classified personnel file. "Stone, this comes from the top. The Admiral himself approved this program," Reardon said quietly. "So, with all due respect, I don't care if God himself approved it. That is a child." Maya stopped 3 feet away and snapped a salute that was textbook perfect. Petty Officer Second Class Maya Chen, reporting as ordered, Chief. Stone didn't return the salute. He stared at her like she was a grenade with the pin pulled. "How old are you?" he asked, even though he clearly already knew. 17, Chief. 18 in 4 months. 17. Stone looked at Reardon. "Sir, my youngest operator is 26. The average age of my team is 32. These are grown men who have been through hell and back. And you want me to take a high school kid on direct action missions?" "She's not a typical high school kid, Chief. Read the file." Stone snatched the folder and flipped it open. Maya watched his eyes scan the pages, watching for the moment when skepticism would turn to something else. It took about 30 seconds. "This says she qualified as an expert marksman at age 9. That she has been training with former special operations personnel since she was 11. That she can make consistent hits at 1,500 meters." Stone looked up. "This also says she has never been in combat. Never been shot at. Never watched a friend die. Never had to make a split-second decision that determines whether her teammates go home or go home in boxes. That's why she's here, Chief. To learn those things. My men are not training wheels, sir. This is an operational team conducting direct action missions in the most dangerous province in Afghanistan. We are currently hunting Zahir Khan, a high-value target who has more American blood on his hands than anyone else in this sector. I need operators I can trust, not science experiments." Maya kept her face neutral, but something cold settled in her stomach. She had known this would be difficult. She had known that men like Stone existed, men who saw her age and gender and made assumptions. But hearing it out loud was different. "Chief Stone, the Admiral believes that Maya represents the future of special operations recruitment and training. There are thousands of young people in this country with extraordinary skills that could serve their nation, but we lose them because our current pipeline requires them to be 19 before they can even begin BUDEOS. This program is designed to identify exceptional candidates earlier and give them specialized training and mentorship." Reardon closed his own folder. Maya has completed a modified version of BUDEOS. She has passed psychological evaluations. She has demonstrated skills that put her in the top 1% of marksmen in the entire military. And she volunteered for this, knowing exactly what she was walking into. Stone looked at Maya again. Why? It was the first time he had spoken directly to her as a person rather than a problem. "Because I can help, Chief." Because I have a skill set that can save American lives. And because when I was 14 years old, my brother was killed in Helmand Province by a sniper. He was a Marine, 22 years old. He died doing what he loved, saving his country. Maya's voice didn't waver. I can't bring him back, but I can make sure other sisters don't lose their brothers. Stone's expression didn't soften, but something shifted in his eyes. He closed the file and handed it back to Reardon. She stays in the TOC. She does not go outside the wire. She observes only. If I see one sign that she can't handle the pressure, she's on the next bird back to Coronado. Are we clear, sir? Crystal clear, Chief. But you should know, the Admiral was very specific. Maya is here to be evaluated in field conditions. She needs to see combat. Then the Admiral can come out here and babysit her himself, Stone said flatly. He turned and walked into the TOC without another word. Reardon looked at Maya with something that might have been sympathy. Welcome to FOB Dwyer, Petty Officer Chen. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. I know, sir. No, Reardon said quietly. You really don't. The team briefing room was a plywood box with a metal roof, 3 folding tables, and a whiteboard covered in maps and targeting information. When Maya entered that evening for her first team meeting, 8 pairs of eyes turned toward her with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. Chief Stone stood at the front of the room. Gentlemen, this is Petty Officer Chen. She will be attached to our element for evaluation purposes. She is an observer only. Treat her like you would any new guy, which means you ignore her unless I tell you otherwise. How old is she? Asked a barrel-chested man with a Tennessee accent. His name tape read Vickers. Old enough to be here, Stone said, which was not an answer. She looks like she should be in algebra class, not Afghanistan, said another operator, younger than the others, maybe late 20s. His name was Hayes, and he had the kind of smirk that suggested he found this entire situation hilarious. Hayes, did I ask for commentary? No, Chief. Then shut up. Stone turned back to the map. We have new intelligence on Zahir Khan. Signals intercepts put him in the village of Gam Sar, approximately 30 clicks northwest of our position. His meeting with local Taliban commanders to coordinate attacks on Highway 1. This is the closest we've been to him in 4 months. We insert via helicopter at 0-30 tomorrow, establish overwatch positions in the high ground, and wait for positive ID. Questions? What's the expected enemy force strength? Asked a quiet man in the corner. His name tape said Martinez, and unlike the others, he hadn't looked at Maya once. He was focused entirely on the mission. Intelligence estimates between 20 and 40 combatants. Khan travels with a personal security detail of at least 8 men, all experienced fighters. The village itself has a population of about 200, mostly farmers and their families. Rules of engagement are standard. Positive ID required before engaging. Minimize civilian casualties. Our primary objective is Khan. If we can take him alive, great. If not, a confirmed kill is acceptable. Extraction plan, asked Vickers. 2 Blackhawks on standby at the FOB. 15-minute flight time once we call for exfil. There's a clearing approximately 800 meters from our overwatch position that can serve as an LZ. We will have Apache gunship support available if things go sideways. Stone traced routes on the map with his finger, showing insertion points, fallback positions, egress routes. Maya watched and memorized everything, noting distances, elevations, potential complications. She had studied satellite imagery of this region for weeks before deploying, knew every ridge and wadi within 50 kilometers. Vickers, you on point. Martinez, you have our 6. Hayes, you're carrying the 240. I'll be running command and control. Davidson and Chen, you on long-range observation and precision fire. Maya's head snapped up. Chief, you wanted to be here. Petty Officer, this is what being here looks like. Davidson is our primary marksman. You will assist him. You will do exactly what he tells you to do, when he tells you to do it. You will not fire unless I give explicit authorization. You will carry your own gear, keep up with the team, and not be a liability. Do you understand? Yes, Chief. Davidson, A lean man in his mid-30s with a weathered look of someone who had spent years in the sun, studied her with neutral eyes. You ever shot at a person before? No. You ever been shot at? No. Then tomorrow's going to be educational. He didn't sound angry or mocking. Just matter of fact. What's your longest confirmed hit on a static target? 1,632 meters. 17-mile-per-hour crosswind. Target was a 12-inch plate. Several of the men exchanged glances. 1,600 meters was a genuinely impressive distance, the kind of shot that required not just skill but an almost intuitive understanding of ballistics, wind, temperature, and a dozen other variables. And your longest hit on a moving target? Davidson asked. 914 meters. Target was moving at approximately 8 miles per hour, left to right. What rifle? Custom build. Remington 700 action, Krieger barrel, Macmillan stock, Schmidt and Bender scope. Hand-loaded ammunition, 190-grain Sierra Match King bullets. I built it myself with my instructor. Davidson's eyebrows went up slightly. You built your own rifle? Yes. And who was your instructor? Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Briggs, Marine Corps, retired. He was a scout sniper instructor at Quantico for 12 years. He's been training me since I was 11. The room went quiet. Anyone with knowledge of military sniping knew that name. Briggs was a legend, a man who had trained hundreds of Marine snipers and was credited with some of the longest confirmed kills in Marine Corps history. Briggs trained you personally? Vickers asked, his skepticism starting to crack. Yes. After my brother died, I wrote him a letter, told him I wanted to learn to shoot, wanted to understand what my brother had done. He wrote back and said if I was serious, he would teach me. I've trained with him almost every weekend for the past 6 years. Stone's expression was unreadable. Briggs wouldn't waste his time on someone who couldn't cut it. No, Chief. He wouldn't. All right. Stone turned back to the map. We sewed at 0400. Full kit. 3 days of supplies in case we need to extend the operation. Get your gear squared away and get some sleep. Dismissed. The men filed out, several of them giving Maya longer looks, re-evaluating. Only Hayes still smirked. Hey, Chen, he called as he reached the door. Try not to cry when the shooting starts. Okay? We don't have time for babysitting. Hayes, Stone's voice cracked like a whip. One more word and you're staying on base to fill sandbags. Are we clear? Hazy's smirk vanished. Clear, Chief. When everyone else had left, Davidson approached Maya. He was holding a ballistics calculator and a notebook. If you're really trained by Briggs, then you know your shit. But knowing your shit on a range in California is different from knowing your shit when someone is trying to kill you. Tomorrow, you stay next to me. You watch what I do. You do not touch your rifle unless I tell you to. And if I tell you to shoot, you shoot where I tell you to shoot. Questions? No. Good. What's your zero distance? 700 meters. Environmental conditions use zeroed for 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 29.92 inches of mercury, 50% humidity, sea level elevation. Tomorrow we'll be at around 7,000 feet, temperature in the 40s at night, warming to 70s by midday. Humidity maybe 10%. You'll need to adjust your dope. I've already calculated corrections for expected conditions in theater, including altitude compensation. Davidson almost smiled. Briggs really did train you. He handed her the notebook. These are my range cards for the area we're operating in tomorrow. Study them tonight. Know every distance, every landmark, every dead space where enemies can hide. If things go loud, I need you to be able to call out ranges without thinking. Maya took the notebook. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't get anyone killed. She spent that night in a small plywood hooch that had been assigned to her, studying Davidson's range cards by the light of a headlamp. The distances, elevations, and landmarks burned into her memory. She field-stripped her rifle, cleaned every component, checked and rechecked her scope's adjustments. She laid out her gear according to the loadout list Stone had given her: rifle, pistol, ammunition, water, food, first aid kit, radio, night vision, body armor. 68 pounds of equipment. At 0300, She gave up trying to sleep and did push-ups in the dark until her arms shook. Then she sat on her cot and thought about her brother. David had been her hero. 7 years older, impossibly cool, always patient with his little sister who followed him everywhere and asked a million questions. When he joined the Marines at 19, she had been 12 and devastated. When he deployed to Afghanistan at 21, she had been terrified. And when the Marine Corps officers came to their house in San Diego with grave faces and formal condolences, she had been 14 and her world had ended. The official report said David had been killed by a single sniper round while on patrol in Helmand Province. The shooter had never been found. For months after, Maya had been numb. Then the numbness turned to anger. Then the anger turned to purpose. If she couldn't save David, she could save someone else's brother, someone else's son. She could become what had killed him, and she could be better at it than anyone else. She wrote to Gunnery Sergeant Briggs on a Tuesday. He called her the following Saturday. "Your brother was one of my students," Briggs had said on the phone, his voice rough with decades of cigarettes and shouting on firing ranges. "Good Marine. Good man. I'm sorry for your loss. I want to learn what he learned," Maya had told him. "I want to learn to shoot. Shooting is easy, kid. Any idiot can pull a trigger. What your brother learned was discipline, patience, how to quiet his mind and body enough to make impossible things possible. That takes years. I have years." There had been a long pause. Then Briggs had said, "Be at the range on Camp Pendleton next Saturday at 0600. Bring a notebook and wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. If you're late, don't bother showing up at all." She had never been late. Not once in 6 years. At 03:45, Maya shouldered her pack and walked to the helicopter pad where the team was assembling. The night was moonless and cold, the stars so bright they looked like holes punched in black paper. The Black Hawk sat on the tarmac with its rotors already turning, the pilots running final checks. Stone did a final gear inspection, checking each man's equipment with practiced efficiency. When he got to Maya, he spent extra time examining her rifle, her ammunition, her medical kit. "This is your last chance to stay on base," he said quietly, speaking just loud enough for her to hear over the rotor noise. "I'm going, Chief." He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "Stay close to Davidson. Do what he says. And Chen, if you freeze up out there, if you panic, if you become a liability, I will personally drag you back to the LZ and send you home in disgrace." "Clear. Clear, Chief." "Good. Mount up." The flight took 43 minutes, the helicopter flying low and fast through mountain valleys to avoid detection. Maya sat between Davidson and Martinez, her rifle across her lap, watching the landscape pass beneath them in shades of gray and black through her night vision. The mountains here were ancient and barren, stripped of vegetation by war and drought, scarred by roads that wound through them like veins. At 04:37, the Black Hawk flared and settled onto a rocky plateau 6 kilometers from the target village. The team moved off the bird in practiced silence, spreading out in a defensive perimeter while the helicopter lifted off and disappeared into the darkness. Stone made a series of hand signals. The team moved out in a tactical column, Vickers on point, Meyer in the middle of the formation next to Davidson. They covered the 6 kilometers in 90 minutes, moving slowly and carefully through terrain that was a nightmare of loose rocks and hidden ravines. By the time they reached their overwatch position, a rocky outcrop that overlooked the village from 800 meters away and 1,200 feet of elevation, the sky was starting to lighten in the east. Davidson selected a position between 2 large boulders that provided cover and concealment while giving them a clear view of the village below. He set up his rifle on a small tripod, arranged his equipment within easy reach, and pulled out a spotting scope. "Set up beside me," he whispered. "Mirror my position." Maya did, moving slowly and quietly, careful not to dislodge any rocks that might give away their position. She established a stable shooting position, checked her rifle 0, and began ranging landmarks in the village below. The village of Gam Sar was a collection of maybe 40 mud brick buildings clustered around a small stream. Terrace fields climbed the hillsides, though most appeared fallow. A dirt road entered from the south and wound through the center of the village before continuing north into the mountains. Through her scope, Maya could see people beginning to emerge from their homes as dawn broke. Women in burqas heading to the stream with water jugs. Children playing in dusty courtyards. Men gathering in small groups to drink tea and smoke. First rule of Overwatch, Davidson whispered. Patience. We might be here for hours. Might be here for days. You stay still. You stay quiet. You watch. Most of sniping is just watching. Copy, Maya breathed. The sun rose, turning the mountains from black to brown to gold. The temperature climbed. Maya focused on controlling her breathing, staying hydrated, monitoring the village through her scope. She watched a woman hang laundry, watched children chase a dog through an alley, watched men repair a roof. At 09:43, Stone's voice came through everyone's earpiece. All elements. I have 3 vehicles approaching from the north. Stand by for possible positive ID. Maya shifted her scope to the road. 3 Toyota pickup trucks were coming down the mountain, moving fast, kicking up plumes of dust. The kind of vehicles that were ubiquitous in Afghanistan, equally likely to be carrying farmers or fighters. The trucks entered the village and stopped in front of the largest building, a 2-story structure that served as the village elder's home. Men poured out of the trucks, all of them armed with AK-47s. Maya counted 12 fighters. I count 12 military-age males, all armed. Martinez reported from his position. Confirmed, Stone said. Davidson, can you get eyes on faces? Davidson adjusted his spotting scope, examining each man carefully. Maya did the same through her rifle scope, studying features, looking for the face she had memorized from intelligence photos. And then she saw him. Zahir Khan was 4 to 6 years old, with a gray-streaked beard and a distinctive scar across his left cheek from an old wound. He wore traditional Afghan clothing and moved with the confidence of a man who had survived dozens of battles. As Maya watched, he embraced the village elder and walked into the building. Positive ID on Zahir Khan, Davidson said calmly. Target is entering the main building. Confirmed, Stone said. All elements hold position. We wait for him to come out. We need a clear shot with minimal civilian presence. And so they waited. The sun climbed higher. The temperature rose. Maya remained motionless, her eye to her scope, her body perfectly still despite the heat and discomfort. This was what Briggs had trained her for. The ability to tame herself into a statue, to separate her consciousness from her physical discomfort, to exist in a state of alert calm for hours at a time. At 12:15, children ran through the street directly between their position and the target building. At 12:47, a woman walked across their line of fire, carrying a baby. At 13:23, an old man led a goat past the building's entrance. Each time, Stone called hold fire. Each time, they waited. At 14:06, Zahir Khan emerged from the building. Target is exiting the structure, Stone said. Davidson, do you have a shot? Davidson's breathing slowed. Maya watched him settle into his rifle, watched his finger move to the trigger, watched him make microscopic adjustments to his scope. Negative, Davidson said. 2 children in the background. I cannot guarantee a clean shot. Hold, Stone ordered. Khan stood in the doorway, talking to the village elder. Behind him, 2 children played in a courtyard, laughing and chasing each other. They were maybe 6 and 8 years old. Children are moving, Martinez reported. Stand by. The seconds stretched. Maya could feel her heart beating, could hear the whisper of wind across the rocks, could smell the dust and gun oil. The children moved to the left. Khan turned to the right. For exactly 3 seconds, there was a clear line of sight. Send it, Stone ordered. Davidson fired. The sound of the shot echoed across the valley. Through her scope, Maya saw Khan stagger, saw blood bloom on his chest. But he didn't fall. Instead, he stumbled backward through the doorway, back into the building, dragged by his guards. Hit confirmed, sent to mass, Davidson said. But is still mobile. Target retreated into the structure. Damn it, Stone muttered. All elements, prepare for secondary engagement. Is wounded but not down. The village exploded into chaos. Women grabbed children and ran for their homes. Men scattered. Khan's fighters took defensive positions, some of them scanning the hills, trying to locate where the shot had come from. We're compromised, Vickers said. We need to exfil. Negative, Stone said. Our mission is to confirm kill on Khan. If he escapes now, we won't get another chance. Davidson, can you get another shot? Not unless he comes back outside. The building's too heavily fortified. I can't shoot through mud brick. Maya watched through her scope as Khan's men organized. They were experienced fighters, not panicking, working with tactical discipline. Several of them started moving toward the hills, toward the team's position. Chief, we have 10 to 12 enemy combatants moving to flank our position, Martinez reported. They'll be on us in 15 minutes. Copy. All elements prepare to displace. We'll fall back to. Chief, Maya interrupted, her voice quiet but urgent. I have an angle. Everyone froze. Say again, Chen. I have an angle on the target. There's a window on the second floor of the building. I can see Khan through it. He's propped against a wall. His men are treating his wound. Range is 837 meters. Wind is 3 miles per hour, left to right. I have a clear shot. There was a pause. Then Davidson said, Chief, that's a hell of a shot. Through a window, at that range, with a wounded target who might move. Can you make it, Davidson? Maybe. 70% probability. Chen, what's your probability estimate? Maya studied the shot. The window was small, maybe 2 feet square. Khan was partially obscured by one of his men. The angle was difficult, but the wind was low, the distance was within her capability, and she could see his head and upper chest clearly. 90%, Chief. Another pause. Maya could almost hear Stone's internal calculation. The mission, the risk, the fact that she had never fired a shot in combat, the fact that her claimed skills were unproven. Negative, Stone said finally. Davidson takes the shot. Chief, I can make this. I said negative, petty officer. Davidson, take the shot when ready. Davidson shifted his position, adjusted his scope, controlled his breathing. Maya watched through her own scope, watching Khan, watching the window, knowing with absolute certainty that she could make this shot. Davidson fired. The bullet hit the mud brick wall 3 inches to the left of the window, sending up a spray of dust and fragments but missing Khan entirely. Miss, Davidson said, frustration in his voice. The wind shifted just as I fired. Stand by for follow-up. But Khan's men were already moving, dragging him away from the window, disappearing deeper into the building. Target is displaced, Martinez reported. Chief, those fighters are 2 minutes out from our position. All elements, we're moving. Fall back to Rally Point Alpha. Now. The team began to displace, moving quickly but carefully down the back side of the ridge, heading for their backup position 800 meters to the east. Maya started to follow, then stopped. Through her scope, she could see Khan being carried across a courtyard between 2 buildings. His men were moving him to a vehicle. In 30 seconds he would be gone, driving back into the mountains where he would disappear for another 4 months or forever. She made a decision that would change everything. Maya settled her crosshairs on Khan's head. 892 meters. Wind now 4 miles per hour, left to right. Temperature 71 degrees. Elevation angle negative 12 degrees. She adjusted for all of it in her mind in less than 2 seconds, made a minuscule correction to her scope, exhaled half a breath, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle barked. Through the scope, she watched Khan's head snap back, watched him fall, watched his men freeze in shock, watched blood pool on the dusty ground. Target down, she said quietly. Confirmed kill. Chen, what the hell did you just do? Stone's voice was ice. I eliminated the target, Chief. I told you not to fire. The mission was to confirm kill on Zahir Khan. The mission is complete. The radio went silent. Maya quickly gathered her gear and started moving toward the rally point, her heart hammering now that the shot was done. She had just directly disobeyed an order. In combat, as a 17-year-old on her first mission, she reached the rally point 4 minutes later. The entire team was there, staring at her with expressions that ranged from shock to anger to something that might have been respect. Stone stepped toward her, his face rigid with controlled fury. You disobeyed a direct order. Yes, Chief. You fired without authorization. Yes, Chief. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't have you court-martialed right now. Maya met his eyes. Because Zahir Khan is dead, Chief. Because he won't kill any more Americans. Because I did my job. Your job is to follow orders. My job is to eliminate high-value targets and protect American lives. I did both. Stone's jaw worked. For a moment, Maya thought he might actually hit her. Then he turned away, keyed his radio, and called for extraction. The flight back to FOB Dwyer was silent. None of the men spoke to her. They didn't have to. She could feel the hostility radiating from some of them, the uncertainty from others. When they landed, Stone grabbed her arm before she could leave the helicopter. My office. Now. His office was a plywood cubicle with a desk, 2 chairs, and a small fan that did nothing to combat the heat. Stone sat down heavily and gestured for Maya to sit as well. Do you have any idea what you've done? I completed the mission, Chief. You violated the chain of command. You disregarded explicit orders. You demonstrated that you cannot be trusted to operate within a team structure. Stone leaned forward. I don't care how good a shot you are, Chen. I don't care who trained you. This is not a shooting competition. This is combat. In combat, operators follow orders. Because when they don't, people die. People die when high-value targets are allowed to escape, Chief. You think you're the first hotshot teenager to show up thinking you know better than everyone else. I've seen dozens of kids like you. Most of them wash out. Some of them get people killed. You want to know why we don't normally take 17-year-olds into combat? This is why. Because you don't have the judgment. You don't have the discipline. I had the shot. I took it. Khan is dead. This time. Stone slammed his hand on the desk. This time you got lucky. What about next time? What about when you take a shot you think you can make and you miss and you hit a civilian? What about when you disobey an order and it gets one of your teammates killed? Maya said nothing. There was nothing to say. Stone sat back, rubbing his face with both hands. He looked suddenly tired, decades of war weighing on him. You're going to be confined to base until I decide what to do with you. You will not participate in any more operations. You will not carry your rifle outside your hooch. You will stay out of my sight. Are we clear? Yes, Chief. Get out. Maya stood, saluted, and left. As she walked across the FOB toward her quarters, she felt eyes on her. Word had already spread. The new kid, the teenage girl, had killed Zahir Khan, had disobeyed orders to do it. She couldn't tell if they hated her or respected her. Maybe both. That night, lying in her cot, Maya stared at the plywood ceiling and thought about what Stone had said. He was right about some things. She had disobeyed. She had violated protocol. She had proven that she would prioritize the mission over orders. But she was also right. Khan was dead. He would never kill another American. And she had made a difficult shot under pressure, had proven that her skills were real. She had done what she had come here to do. The question was whether anyone would ever let her do it again. For 3 days, Maya lived in isolation. She cleaned her rifle obsessively. She did push-ups and sit-ups in her hooch until exhaustion claimed her. She read intelligence reports that someone left outside her door, though she wasn't sure who. The team went on 2 missions without her. Both times she watched the helicopters lift off and felt something twist in her chest that might have been shame or might have been anger. On the 4th day, Lieutenant Commander Ridden came to see her. "Walk with me, petty officer," he said. They walked to the perimeter of the FOB, where concrete barriers and razor wire separated American order from Afghan chaos. Beyond the wire, the desert stretched endlessly, heat shimmering off the sand. "Chief Stone wants you sent home," Ridden said without preamble. He's written a formal report recommending your removal from the program and administrative discipline for failure to follow orders in combat. Maya's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. "Yes, sir. He's also recommended you for a Bronze Star with Valor device." Maya's head snapped toward him. "Sir." Turns out Zahir Khan wasn't just a high-value target. He was a high-value target in this sector. The CIA estimates he was personally responsible for planning operations that killed 43 Americans and wounded over 100 more. The intelligence we recovered from his compound after his death has already led to the disruption of 3 major attack networks. You didn't just kill a terrorist, Chen. You cut the head off a snake that's been poisoning this region for years. But I disobeyed orders. Yes, you did. And that's a problem. Reardon looked out at the desert. Command is in an interesting position. On one hand, we have a 17-year-old who proves she cannot be trusted to follow orders, which is disqualifying for special operations. On the other hand, we have a 17-year-old who made an 892-meter shot under combat conditions and eliminated one of the most wanted terrorists in Afghanistan. Those two facts are in direct conflict. What does the Admiral want? The Admiral wants to know if you can be trusted. If what happened was youthful impulsiveness that you'll grow out of, or if it's a fundamental character flaw that makes you unsuitable for this line of work. Reardon turned to face her. So I'm asking you directly, Petty Officer. Can you follow orders even when you disagree with them? Can you be part of a team that requires absolute trust and discipline? Maya thought about lying. Thought about saying whatever Reardon wanted to hear so she could stay, so she could keep doing this work. But Briggs had taught her something else besides shooting. He had taught her that integrity mattered, that lying to yourself was the fastest way to fail. So, I can follow orders. I will follow orders. But if I see a clear shot at a high-value target who is about to escape, who has killed American soldiers and will kill more, and my order is to let him go, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I should do that. Reardon studied her for a long moment. That's an honest answer. Maybe too honest. Gunny Briggs always said lying in the debrief gets people killed, so. Briggs was a smart man. Reardon pulled out a folder from inside his jacket. The Admiral is giving you one more chance. 1. There's a mission tomorrow night. High-risk direct action against a Taliban command compound in the Sanjin Valley. Intelligence suggests there may be as many as 50 enemy combatants at the location. The team needs a second precision marksman because Davidson can't cover all angles alone. Stone has agreed, reluctantly, to take you. But Chen, if you step out of line even once, if you so much as breathe wrong, you're done. Not just with this program. Your entire career. The Admiral will personally ensure you never operate again. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Then get your gear squared away. Briefing is at 1800 hours. The briefing room felt different this time. The men didn't ignore Maya, but they didn't welcome her either. They watched her like she was a bomb that might explode, something dangerous that had to be monitored. Chief Stone stood at the map, his expression carved from granite. Gentlemen, and Chen, this is Operation Righteous Fury. Our target is a Taliban command compound in the Sanjin Valley that intelligence indicates is being used as a staging area for a major offensive against coalition forces. The compound is heavily fortified, well defended, and contains an estimated 40 to 60 enemy combatants, including several high-value targets. He pointed to a satellite image on the screen. The compound was a walled complex with multiple buildings, guard towers, and what looked like fighting positions along the perimeter. We insert via helicopter at 2200 hours, 5 kilometers from the target. We approach on foot, establish overwatch positions on the high ground, and wait for confirmation of HVT presence. Once confirmed, we call in an airstrike to destroy the compound. Our job is reconnaissance and target designation, not direct assault. Questions? Martinez raised his hand. Expected civilian presence. Intelligence says 0. This is a military compound, not a village. Everyone inside is enemy. Rules of engagement, asked Vickers. Anyone who shoots at us dies. Anyone who attempts to flee the compound after we're compromised dies. This is not a capture mission. This is about removing a significant enemy capability before they can use it against us. Hayes looked at Maya. What's the kid's job? Stone's jaw tightened. Chen will be positioned with Davidson on Overwatch. Her job is to provide precision fire support if we are engaged by enemy forces. She will fire only on my explicit command, or if she is directly engaged by the enemy. She will not make independent decisions. She will not freelance. She will follow orders or she will face court-martial. Is that clear, Petty Officer Chen? Crystal clear, Chief. Good. We roll in 4 hours. Get your gear ready. Davidson found Maya in the armory, checking her rifle for the 5th time. You good? He asked quietly. I'm good. Stone is serious about the court-martial thing. You know that, right? You pull another stunt like the con shot and your career is over. I know. Davidson sat down on the bench next to her. For what it's worth, that was a hell of a shot. I've been doing this for 12 years and I'm not sure I could have made it. You have a gift. Doesn't seem to matter if no one trusts me to use it. Trust is earned over time, not in one mission. These guys have been together for years. They've bled together, lost friends together, survived things that would break most people. You show up as a 17-year-old girl and make a shot that most of them couldn't make. Yeah, that's going to create some friction. So what do? You do your job. You follow orders. You prove over time that you can be relied on. And maybe, eventually, they'll stop seeing you as a liability and start seeing you as an asset. Davidson stood up. But Chen, you need to understand something. Stone isn't wrong. In a team like this, trust is everything. If he tells you not to shoot, there might be a reason you don't see. Maybe there's a friendly element in the area you don't know about. Maybe the mission parameters changed. Maybe taking that shot would compromise something bigger. You can't always see the whole picture. And if I do see the whole picture and I disagree, then you make your case. But if the boss says no, the answer is no. That's how teams work. Maya nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not sure you do. You're used to operating alone, making your own decisions, relying on your own judgment. That worked when you were on a range with Briggs. But this is different. Out here, your decisions affect everyone. You take a shot at the wrong time, you don't just miss. You get someone killed. The words hit harder than Maya expected because they were true. She had been thinking of herself as an individual operator, someone whose skills were sufficient unto themselves. But that wasn't how special operations worked. It was about the team. Always the team. I'll do better, she said quietly. See that you do. The helicopter insertion went smoothly, the bird dropping them on a rocky plateau under a moonless sky at exactly 20 to 100 hours. The temperature had dropped to the low 50s, cold enough that Maya could see her breath. The team moved out in tactical formation, covering the 5 kilometers to the Overwatch position in just over 2 hours. The compound sat in a valley below them, lit by harsh electric lights powered by a generator that they could hear chugging in the darkness. Through her night vision, Maya counted 6 guard towers, each manned by at least 2 fighters. More men moved between buildings, carrying weapons, talking in groups. This was not a sleeping compound. This was an active military facility. Chief Stone's voice came through the radio, barely above a whisper. All elements in position. Davidson, Chen, I need a count of enemy personnel and identification of any HVTs. Davidson set up his spotting scope while Maya began methodically scanning the compound through her rifle scope. She counted fighters, noting their weapons, their positions, their behavior. Some looked professional, moving with military discipline. Others looked like teenagers, boys barely older than her, carrying AK-47s with the casual familiarity of people who had known war their entire lives. I count 43 enemy personnel visible, Davidson reported. Stand by for HVT identification. Maya shifted her scope to a group of men gathered around a table in an open courtyard. They were looking at papers, maps maybe, pointing and discussing. 3 of them matched photographs she had memorized during the briefing. I have eyes on 3 HVTs, she said quietly. Taliban commanders Nazi Ahmed, Mohammed Rashid, and Kari Hamza. They in the central courtyard, 32 meters from the main building. Confirmed, Davidson said, checking through his spotting scope. All 3 targets present. Stone's voice held satisfaction. Outstanding. Calling in the airstrike now. All elements maintain position and standby for bomb drop. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Maya settled into her position, maintaining her sight picture on the courtyard, watching the 3 commanders discuss whatever operation they were planning. An operation that would never happen now because in 12 minutes an F-16 would drop a 500-pound bomb on this compound and erase it from existence. She thought about the men down there, thought about the fact that most of them had no idea they were about to die. Some part of her, the part that was still 17 and had grown up in San Diego going to movies and worrying about math tests, felt something twist at that thought. But the larger part, the part that Briggs had trained, the part that had read the casualty reports and knew what these men had done and would do, felt nothing but cold calculation. These were enemy combatants. They had chosen this. They had killed Americans and would kill more if given the chance. 10 minutes, Stone reported. Maya watched a young fighter, maybe 19 or 20, lean against a wall and smoke a cigarette. Watched an older man check the magazine on his rifle. Watched someone laugh at a joke she couldn't hear. 8 minutes. The generator coughed and died. The lights went out. The compound plunged into darkness illuminated only by the green glow of night vision. 7 minutes. Men were moving now, some toward the generator, others taking defensive positions like they thought the power loss meant an attack was imminent. They weren't wrong. 6 minutes. Strike package reports on target and on time. Maya's radio crackled with a different voice, urgent and strained. All Reaper elements. This is Sentinel 3-1. We have movement on your position. Multiple personnel approaching from the east. Stand by for count. Maya shifted her scope to the east. Coming up the trail toward their position were at least 30 men, all armed, moving in tactical formation. They were Taliban, and they were heading straight toward the Overwatch position. Chief, I count 30+ enemy combatants, 800 meters out and closing. Martinez reported from his position. They're going to walk right into us. Stone's voice remained calm, but Maya could hear the tension underneath. All elements hold position. Do not engage unless fired upon. They might pass by without seeing us. But they didn't pass by. At 400 meters, the lead fighter stopped and pointed directly toward the team's position. He had seen something, maybe a reflection off a scope, maybe movement, maybe just sensed something wrong. We're compromised, Vickers said. They're deploying for assault. The Taliban fighters spread out, taking cover behind rocks, maneuvering to flank the team's position. This was going to be a fight. All elements, weapons free. Engage enemy personnel. Davidson, Chen, I need you to thin them out before they close the distance. Maya's world narrowed to her scope, her breathing, her trigger. She found her first target, a man moving between rocks at 370 meters. She led him slightly, compensated for a gentle crosswind, and fired. The man dropped. She worked the bolt, found her next target, fired. Another drop. Beside her, Davidson was firing in a steady rhythm, each shot deliberate, each shot claiming a life. The Taliban fighters were trying to advance, but every time they moved, someone died. Good shooting, Davidson muttered. Keep it up. Maya fell into the zone that Briggs had taught her, that place where thought and action merged, where her body became an extension of the rifle and the rifle became an extension of her will. Target, breathe, squeeze, work the bolt, next target. Again and again and again. The Taliban fighters realized they were being cut down and changed tactics, laying down suppressive fire while others attempted to close the distance. Bullets cracked overhead, impacted rocks around them, sent up sprays of stone fragments. Hayes opened up with the M240 machine gun, the heavy weapon chattering, sending streams of tracer rounds into the enemy position. The combined fire from the team was devastating, but the Taliban kept coming. These were experienced fighters, brave or fanatical or both, willing to die to kill Americans. Strike packages 1 minute out, Stone reported. All elements prepare for danger close ordnance. Get your heads down when I call it. Maya fired again, and again. She had lost count of how many men she had killed. 8, 10, it didn't matter. They kept coming. And then she saw him. Coming up the trail behind the main Taliban force was a small figure. A child, maybe 10 years old, carrying a shepherd's staff, leading 3 goats. He had walked into the middle of a firefight, probably confused, probably terrified, definitely about to die either from American bullets or Taliban brutality for being in the wrong place. Chief, Maya said urgently, we have a civilian child in the engagement area. Northeast corner, 200 meters. I see him, Stone said. Continue engaging military-age males only. But the Taliban had seen the boy too. One of the fighters grabbed him, held him in front as a human shield, and began advancing toward the American position. He was using a child to protect himself. Maya's crosshairs settled on the fighter's head, the small part that was visible above the boy's shoulder. It was maybe a 6-inch target. The man was moving, and the boy was struggling. If she missed by even 2 inches, she would kill the child. "Jen, do you have a shot?" Stone asked. She thought about Davidson's words, about trust, about following orders, about not making independent decisions. "Negative, Chief. Too much risk to the civilian." "Copy. All elements. The strike is 30 seconds out. Get down, get down, get down." The team pressed themselves into the rocks as an F-16 screamed overhead, invisible in the darkness. 5 seconds later, the compound below them erupted in fire and thunder as the 500-pound bomb found its target. The explosion lit up the entire valley, the shockwave washing over them even at their distance, the sound so loud it felt physical. The Taliban fighters froze, watching their compound burn. The man holding the boy looked back at the destruction, distracted for just a moment. Maya fired. The bullet took him in the head, just above the child's shoulder. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The boy stumbled away, crying, running into the darkness with his goats. "Target down," Maya reported. "All elements, break contact. Fall back to Rally Point Bravo. Move, move, move." The team displaced under fire, moving in bounds, covering each other, leaving behind 23 dead Taliban fighters and a burning compound. They made it to the rally point 600 meters away, where they held defensive positions while waiting for extraction. The Blackhawks came in hot and fast, taking sporadic fire from surviving Taliban fighters. The team loaded up and lifted off, and as they climbed into the night sky, Maya looked down at the burning compound, the scattered bodies, the destruction they had wrought. She had killed at least 11 men tonight. Maybe more. She had saved a child's life. She had followed orders. She had been part of the team, and she felt nothing but exhausted. Back at FOB Dwyer, the team went through a quick debrief and then scattered to clean weapons, write reports, sleep. Maya was walking toward her hooch when Chief Stone called out. "Jen, my office." "Here it comes," she thought. The evaluation. The judgment. The decision about whether she stays or goes. Stone's office was exactly as she remembered. He gestured to a chair and she sat today. "You followed orders tonight," he said without preamble. "Yes, Chief." "You passed on a shot because I told you to pass on it." "Yes, Chief." "And then you took a shot to save a civilian child that put you at significant risk if you missed." "Yes, Chief." Stone leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Davidson says you killed 11 confirmed enemy combatants tonight. He says your shooting was professional, disciplined, and effective. He says you kept your head under fire and functioned as part of the team." Maya said nothing. "I've been in special operations for 24 years, Stone continued. "I've worked with hundreds of operators. I've seen 18-year-old kids freeze up completely their first time under fire. I've seen experienced veterans crack under pressure. And I've seen a handful of natural warriors, people who are just built differently, who have the combination of skill and temperament and courage that makes them elite." He pulled out a folder and opened it. "You're 17 years old. You shouldn't be here. By every normal standard, you're too young, too inexperienced, too untested. But you're also one of the best marksmen I've ever seen. You have a gift that could save American lives. And tonight you proved that you can follow orders and function as part of a team." "Thank you, Chief. I'm not done. You also proved in your first mission that you will disobey orders when you think you know better. That makes you dangerous, not to the enemy, to your teammates. Because if I can't trust you to follow my orders, then I can't use you on missions where split-second decisions mean the difference between success and catastrophe." Stone closed the folder. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to deploy with this team for the next 4 months. You're going to follow every order I give you, instantly and without question. You're going to prove that Khan was a one-time lapse in judgment and not a pattern of behavior. And at the end of 4 months, I'm going to recommend either that you continue in this program and become one of the youngest SEALs in history, or that you be reassigned to a training role where your skills can be used without putting operational teams at risk. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear, Chief." "Good. Get some sleep. We have another mission in 36 hours." Over the next 14 weeks, Maya Chen deployed on 17 combat missions with SEAL Team 7. She killed 34 enemy combatants. She saved the lives of 3 American soldiers and 2 Afghan civilians. She followed every order given to her, even when she disagreed, even when every instinct screamed at her to act differently. She learned to trust her team, and they slowly, grudgingly, began to trust her. The missions blurred together after a while. Overwatch positions in the mountains, reconnaissance patrols through hostile villages, direct action raids on Taliban compounds. Each mission was different in its details but the same in its essentials. Insert, execute, extract, debrief, repeat. She learned what it meant to function on 4 hours of sleep for weeks at a time. She learned how to eat MREs that tasted like cardboard and be grateful for them. She learned the particular silence that falls over men who have just survived something that should have killed them. She learned the faces that people make when they die. By her 18th birthday in November, the team no longer treated her like a child or an experiment. They still made jokes, but they were the kind of jokes teammates made, not the cutting remarks of someone trying to drive her away. Vickers asked her opinion on tactical problems. Martinez shared his coffee without her having to ask. Davidson taught her advanced techniques he had learned over 12 years of combat. And Chief Stone, hard and unyielding as the mountains they operated in, began to rely on her. Chen, what's your read on that building? Chen, can you make that shot? Chen, take Overwatch. I trust your eyes. The trust came in small increments, hard-earned, paid for imperfect shots, and followed orders in quiet competence under fire. But it came. In late November, intelligence identified a high-value target operating in the Peck Valley, a region so dangerous that it was called the Valley of Death. His name was Mullah Ghazi, and he was Zahir Khan's successor, the new operational commander for Taliban forces in the region. This is going to be difficult, Stone told the team during the briefing. Ghazi is smart. He's careful. He doesn't stay in one place long. He travels with a large security element and has evaded multiple kill or capture missions over the past 3 years. But intelligence has given us a narrow window. He's going to be meeting with local commanders in a village called Kamdesh tomorrow at dawn. We'll have maybe 30 minutes before he moves again. The mission profile was complex. Ince out at night, move 10 kilometers through mountains, establish Overwatch before dawn, identify and eliminate Ghazi, extract under potential enemy fire. There were approximately 100 Taliban fighters in and around Kamdesh. If the mission went wrong, the team would be outnumbered 20-1. I'm not going to lie to you, Stone said. This is high risk. If anyone wants to opt out, speak now. Nobody spoke. This was the team. This was what they did. They inserted at 0200 hours, landing on a plateau 8 kilometers from the target and moving through terrain that was more vertical than horizontal. The mountains here were some of the steepest Maya had ever seen, covered in loose scree that made every step treacherous. They moved in darkness, slowly, carefully, knowing that a single fool could break bones or give away their position. At 05:15, they reached the Overwatch position, a rocky outcrop that overlooked the village from 1,200 meters away and 2,000 feet of elevation. Dawn was still 30 minutes away, the sky just beginning to lighten in the east. Davidson and Maya set up their rifles while the rest of the team established a defensive perimeter. The village below was still dark, no lights, no movement. Waiting. As dawn broke, the village came to life. Women emerged to collect water. Children appeared, already playing despite the early hour. Men gathered in small groups, drinking tea, preparing for the day. And then, at 06:43, 3 pickup trucks rolled into the village. Multiple vehicles entering from the north, Martinez reported. Maya watched through her scope as men poured out of the trucks, all armed, all moving with military discipline. And among them, a tall man with a distinctive limp from an old wound, wearing a black turban and carrying himself with authority. Positive ID on Mullah Ghazi, Davidson said. Target is exiting the lead vehicle. Confirmed, Stone said. Stand by for engagement. Ghazi walked toward a building in the center of the village, surrounded by at least 8 bodyguards. The range was 1,203 meters. The wind was variable, shifting between 5 and 8 miles per hour. The angle was extreme, shooting downward at a steep decline. It was an extraordinarily difficult shot. "Davidson, can you make it?" Stone asked. Davidson studied the target through his scope, calculating wind, distance, angle, all the variables that turn shooting from a skill into an art. After 30 seconds, he spoke. "It's at the edge of my capability, Chief. I'd say 60% probability at this range with these conditions." Stone looked at Maya. "Chen." Maya had been calculating the same variables. 1,203 meters. Wind 7 miles per hour, left to right, but gusting. Temperature 48 degrees. Extreme downward angle requiring significant elevation adjustment. The target was moving, surrounded by other people, in a village full of civilians. 85%, Chief. But I need him to stop moving. Copy. We wait for a clear shot. They waited. Ghazi entered the building and disappeared from view. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. "Chief, we're losing the window," Vickers said quietly. "Intelligence said he'd only be here 30 minutes. We're at 23 minutes already." "I know. Stay patient." At 27 minutes, Ghazi emerged from the building. But he wasn't alone. He was holding the hand of a small girl, maybe 5 years old, walking her out to one of the trucks. His daughter, maybe, or niece, a child he cared about. "Target is exposed, but his with a child," Davidson reported. "No shot." Maya watched through her scope as Ghazi lifted the girl into the truck, said something to her that made her smile, closed the door. For just a moment, he stood still, his hand on the truck door, looking back at the village. 1,203 meters. Clear line of sight. No civilians in the background. Wind holding steady at 7 miles per hour. Perfect shot conditions. "Chen, do you have it?" Stone asked. "Yes, Chief." "Then send it." Maya's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to the reticle, the target, the space between intention and action. She made her final calculations, adjusted for every variable, and entered that place beyond thought where body and weapon became one. She exhaled halfway and squeezed the trigger. The rifle barked. The recoil pushed against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the bullet travel across 1,203 meters of space in just over 1.5 seconds. Watched it strike Mullah Ghazi in the center of his chest. Watched him fall. "Target down," she said calmly. "Confirmed kill." The village erupted into chaos. Ghazi's men were scrambling, trying to figure out where the shot had come from, returning fire wildly in every direction. But the team's position was well concealed and the range was too great for the Taliban fighters' weapons to be effective. "All elements, break contact. Exfil now," Stone ordered. They were moving within 30 seconds, falling back from the overwatch position, heading for the extraction point 3 kilometers away. Behind them, they could hear gunfire, shouts, confusion. But no pursuit. At 1,200 meters, they were ghosts. The extraction went smoothly. They were wheels up and heading back to the FOB within 40 minutes of the shot. On the flight back, Davidson leaned over and spoke into Maya's ear, loud enough to be heard over the rotor noise. "That was one of the best shots I've ever seen." "Thank you. I mean it. 1,200 meters, extreme angle, variable wind, moving target. I couldn't have made that shot. Most snipers couldn't have made that shot. You're the real deal, Chen." Coming from Davidson, a man with 12 years of combat experience and hundreds of confirmed kills, it meant something. Maya felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the temperature. When they landed at FOB Dwyer, Chief Stone gathered the team for a quick debrief. "Good work today, gentlemen. And Chen, we eliminated a high-value target. No American casualties. Clean extraction. This is how it's supposed to work." He looked directly at Maya. "Chen, that was exceptional shooting. You're officially off probation. You're part of this team." The other men nodded, some of them smiling. Even Hayes gave her a thumbs up. "Thank you, Chief," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Don't thank me. You earned it. Now go get some sleep. We're stood down for 72 hours before the next mission." But there would be no next mission for Maya. At least not with this team. The following morning, she was summoned to Lieutenant Commander Reardon's office. He was sitting behind his desk with another officer she didn't recognize, a Navy captain with the kind of bearing that suggested he was someone important. Petty Officer Chen, this is Captain Michael Harrison from Naval Special Warfare Command, Readiness said. He has some news for you. Harrison stood and shook her hand. His grip was firm, his eyes evaluating. Petty Officer Chen, over the past 4 months you have participated in 17 combat operations. You have 34 confirmed kills, including 2 high-value targets. You have demonstrated exceptional marksmanship, tactical discipline, and integration with an operational team. Your performance has exceeded every metric we established for this experimental program. Maya felt her heart starting to pound. This sounded like good news, but the formal tone suggested something was about to change. Naval Special Warfare Command has decided to expand the Young Talent Identification Program based on your success. We will be recruiting and training additional candidates, creating a pipeline for exceptional individuals who show special operations potential at an early age. Harrison paused. We would like you to be part of that program, but not as an operator. Maya's stomach dropped. So, we want you to help design and implement the training curriculum, to serve as a mentor for future candidates, to take everything you've learned over these 4 months and use it to shape the next generation of special operations personnel. But sir, I'm an operator. I'm good at this. Chief Stone just took me off probation. And you are good at this. Exceptional, in fact. But Petty Officer Chen, you're 18 years old. You have potentially decades of service ahead of you. The question is how we can best use your talents to serve your country. Harrison sat down. As an operator, you're one person. You could be in one place at one time. You can eliminate targets and support your team. But as an instructor and program designer, you can multiply your impact. You can create dozens or hundreds of operators who benefit from your experience and insights. You can fundamentally change how we identify and develop talent. I didn't come here to be an instructor, Sai. I came here to fight. I understand that. And if you insist, we will keep you in an operational role. You've earned that. But I'm asking you to think bigger. Think about what you could accomplish not just in the next mission, but in the next 10 years. The next 20 years. Maya looked at Ridden, who nodded slightly. It's your choice, Chen. But the captain is offering you an opportunity that most people don't get until they are much older and more experienced. The chance to shape policy and training at the strategic level. To leave a legacy beyond your individual actions. She thought about her brother David. Thought about all the young men and women who wanted to serve, who had skills and courage but didn't fit the traditional mold. Thought about what it had been like to be 17 years old and told she was too young, too inexperienced, too different. If she stayed operational, she could save lives on individual missions. But if she helped design a better system for finding and training operators, she could save lives for years to come. How long would this assignment be, sir? She asked. Initially 2 years at the training center in Coronado. After that, we'd evaluate based on program success and your career preferences. You could return to operational teams if you wanted. Or continue in training and development. Your choice. 2 years. 24 months. At 18 years old, it felt like forever. But she was thinking about Briggs, about the 6 years he had spent training her, the patience and expertise he had invested. He had multiplied his impact through her. She could do the same for others. I'll do it, sir, she said. On one condition. Harrison raised an eyebrow. You're in a position to negotiate conditions. Petty Officer. I want Gunnery Sergeant Briggs involved in the program design. He's the best instructor I've ever met. If we're building something new, he needs to be part of it. Harrison smiled. Briggs is already on our consultant list. He recommended you for this program in the first place. You know, sent a letter to the Admiral 3 years ago suggesting we were missing talented candidates because our age requirements were too rigid. Maya felt her eyes widen. He never told me that. Probably because he wanted you to succeed on your own merits, not because he was pulling strings. Harrison stood and extended his hand again. Welcome to the Strategic Talent Development Program, Petty Officer Chen. You report to Coronado in 2 weeks. That night, Maya sat on the roof of her hooch, looking out at the Afghan mountains under a sky full of stars. She thought about the past 4 months, about every mission, every shot, every moment of fear and doubt and triumph. She thought about the men she had killed and the lives she had saved and the impossible journey that had brought her here. Tomorrow she would say goodbye to Chief Stone and Davidson and the team, would pack up her gear and board a plane back to the United States, would transition from being an operator to being something else, something new, something undefined. She was 18 years old, the youngest SEAL to earn a Bronze Star with Valor, the first member of a program that might change military recruitment forever. And she was just getting started. 3 weeks later, Maya Chen stood in an office at the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California, looking at a whiteboard covered in notes about training timelines, selection criteria, and curriculum design. Across the table sat Gunnery Sergeant Briggs, older and grayer than when she had last seen him, but with the same sharp eyes that missed nothing. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "how does it feel to be a war hero?" "I'm not a war hero, Gunny. I'm an 18-year-old with a lot to learn." "That's the first smart thing you've said since you got back." Briggs smiled, rare and genuine. "You did good over there, kid. Your brother would be proud." Maya felt her throat tighten. "I hope so. I know so. David was my student too. Remember? I knew him. And I know he would be proud that his little sister turned herself into one of the best marksmen in the military and used that skill to protect others." Briggs tapped the whiteboard. "Now let's talk about how we build a program that finds more kids like you." They worked for 6 hours that day and every day after for weeks, designing assessments, debating age requirements, arguing about the balance between physical training and mental development, building something new from the ground up. The program would be called the Special Operations Youth Initiative. It would identify candidates as young as 16 who showed exceptional aptitude for military service. It would provide specialized training while they completed their education. It would create a pathway for talented young people to serve their country earlier and more effectively. And it would be built on the lessons learned from one 17-year-old girl who had proven that excellence has no age limit. 6 months after returning from Afghanistan, Maya Chen received her Bronze Star with Valor in a ceremony at the Naval Special Warfare Center. Chief Stone attended. So did Davidson and the rest of the team. So did Captain Harrison and Lieutenant Commander Reardon. When the medal was pinned to her uniform, when the citation was read aloud describing her actions in combat, when everyone applauded, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. She thought about David, her brother, her hero, whose death had set her on this path. She thought about Briggs, who had seen potential in a grieving 14-year-old and spent 6 years turning that potential into skill. She thought about Stone, who had doubted her and challenged her and ultimately trusted her. She thought about every mission, every shot, every moment of fear overcome and duty fulfilled. And she thought about the young people who would come after her, who would benefit from the program she was building, who would have opportunities that hadn't existed before. That night, she called Briggs. "How's it feel to be officially decorated?" he asked. "Strange. Good. Also strange. That's about right. You earned it, though. Every bit of it." "Gunny, I wanted to ask you something. Why did you spend so much time training me? I was just a kid. You could have been doing anything else with your time." There was a long pause. Then Briggs said, "Because your brother asked me to." "What?" "About 2 weeks before David was killed, he sent me an email. Said his little sister was struggling with his deployment, was angry and scared and didn't know how to process it. Asked if there was anything I could suggest that might help her understand what he was doing and why it mattered." Briggsy's voice was rough. "I told him I'd think about it. And then before I could respond, he was gone. So when you wrote to me after he died, asking to learn to shoot, I figured it was the least I could do. Teach you what I taught him. Give you the skills he had. Let you walk in his footsteps in your own way." Maya was crying now, silent tears running down her face. "You never told me. Didn't seem important. What mattered was the work, the training, turning you into the operator you became. David would have wanted that. He loved his country and he loved his sister. Teaching you was a way to honor both. Thank you, Gunny, for everything. You don't thank me, kid. You take what I taught you and you pass it on. You find the next kid who needs a mentor, who has potential but no path, and you give them what I gave you. That's how this works. That's how we build something that lasts. I will. I promise. 2 years later, the Special Operations Youth Initiative graduated its first class of candidates. 14 young men and women, ages 17 to 19, who had completed an intensive training program and were being integrated into Special Operations units across the military. Maya Chen, now 20 years old and promoted to Petty Officer First Class, stood before them as they received their graduation certificates. 2 years ago, I was where you are now, she told them. Uncertain. Excited. 2 years ago, I was where you are now, she told them. Uncertain. Excited. Terrified. I had skills that I believed in but nobody else did yet. I had a mission that felt too big for someone my age. I had doubts that whispered I was in the wrong place, that I didn't belong here, that the people who said I was too young might be right. She paused, looking at each face in the room. 14 young people, impossibly young by military standards, impossibly capable by any other measure. She saw herself in every one of them. Those doubts were wrong. And if you have doubts about yourself right now, they are wrong about you too. The room was completely silent. You were not selected for this program because someone felt sorry for you or wanted to run an experiment. You were selected because trained professionals looked at your skills, your character, your potential, and said this person has what it takes. That evaluation is not given lightly. It is not given easily. And it was not given to you as a gift. You earned it. Every single day of training you showed up. Every test you passed. Every moment you wanted to quit and didn't. You earned this. Maya looked down at her notes, then set them aside. She didn't need them. You are going to face doubt from the people around you. You are going to meet people like Chief Stone. And I say this with complete respect because Chief Stone is one of the finest officers I have ever served under. People who are experienced and brilliant and absolutely convinced that your age makes you a liability rather than an asset. They are not your enemies. They are people who care deeply about mission success and their teammates' lives, and they haven't seen enough evidence yet that you belong. Your job is to give them that evidence, not by arguing, not by defying orders, but by performing consistently and brilliantly until their doubt becomes trust. She thought about how long that had taken with Stone. How many perfectly executed missions? How many followed orders? How many small proofs stacked on top of each other until the mountain of evidence became undeniable? I'm going to tell you something that nobody told me. Something I had to learn the hard way in the mountains of Afghanistan under actual enemy fire. Being exceptional is not enough. Being the best shot in the room is not enough. Being the most talented person on your team is not enough. What matters, what truly determines whether you succeed or fail in special operations, is whether your teammates trust you. Trust is not about ability. Trust is about reliability. Trust is built in the small moments, not the dramatic ones. Every time you show up when you said you would. Every time you do the thing nobody wants to do without complaining. Every time you put the team's needs above your own preferences. That is how trust is built. And without trust, all the talent in the world is worthless. She saw some of the graduates nodding. Others looked thoughtful, processing. Good. She wanted them thinking, not just listening. You are the first class. That means everything you do reflects on everyone who comes after you. If you succeed, this program grows and more young people get opportunities that wouldn't have existed without you. If you fail, or worse, if you succeed as individuals but fail as teammates, this program ends, and those future opportunities disappear. You carry that weight now. That is not meant to scare you. It is meant to motivate you. She looked at the faces again. 14 young people about to walk into a world that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves. I lost my brother to this war. He was a Marine, a scout sniper, 22 years old, killed by a Taliban sniper in Helmand province. His death is why I am standing here today. His death set me on a path that led to Afghanistan, to missions I cannot fully describe in this room, to a Bronze Star with Valor, and eventually to this program. I would give all of it, every medal, every commendation, every confirmed kill, every moment of recognition, to have my brother back. But I cannot have that. What I can have, what I choose to have, is the knowledge that his death meant something, that it led somewhere, that the path that started with losing him ultimately ended with helping build something that will protect other people's brothers and sisters. Her voice was steady. She had made peace with this truth a long time ago. That is why this program exists. Not because the military decided to run a social experiment. Not because someone in Washington wanted a headline. But because people die in war, and we owe it to them, to their families, to the ones who grieve them, to build the best possible military we can, to find the best possible people, to give those people the best possible training and opportunities, to waste nothing, to honor their sacrifice by making sure their successes are worthy of it. The graduation ceremony ended with each candidate shaking hands with their assigned team leads and receiving unit patches. Maya watched them, 14 futures walking out into the world carrying everything this program had given them. Briggs appeared at her elbow, as quietly as he always did. "Good speech," he said. "I meant every word." "I know. That's what made it good." He handed her a coffee, black, the way she had drunk it since she was 15, and he had started letting her have it during long-range sessions. "How does it feel?" "First class graduated. Program officially up and running." "It feels like the beginning," Maya said, "which is both exciting and terrifying. That's how all the best things feel." Briggs sipped his coffee. "You know, when I started as an instructor at Quantico all those years ago, I thought my job was to teach people to shoot. Took me about 3 years to figure out that shooting was the smallest part of it. The real job was teaching people to believe in themselves under impossible pressure, to trust their training when their instincts were screaming at them to panic, to be still inside when everything outside was chaos. That's what you taught me," Maya said. "That's what I tried to teach you. You did the actual learning." He nodded toward the graduates who were talking with their new team leads, some of them laughing, the tension of the ceremony breaking into something lighter. "You gave those kids something I couldn't give them. You gave them proof. Not a speech about possibility, not a theory about potential, but actual proof that someone their age can do this, can survive it, can excel at it. That matters more than anything else you could have told them today." Maya watched a young woman named Serrano, 17 years old, from El Paso, talking animatedly with a special operations sergeant who had spent 15 years in the Rangers. 3 months ago, Serrano had barely believed she belonged here. Now she was standing in front of a veteran warrior and holding her own in a tactical discussion, her body language confident, her eyes clear. "Think any of them will be better than me?" Maya asked. Briggs laughed, rough and genuine. "Several of them already are, in specific areas." "Good," Maya said, and meant it. "That's the whole point." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and looked at the message. It was from Captain Harrison. "Program budget approved for expansion. Year 3 class will be 25 candidates. Also, Admiral wants to meet with you next week about possible international partnership. Australia and UK Special Forces are interested in adapting the model." Maya read the message twice. An international partnership. Australia. The United Kingdom. The program she had helped build in a plywood office in Coronado with Briggs and a whiteboard was going to cross oceans. She showed the message to Briggs. He read it, handed the phone back, and looked out at the ceremony grounds where 14 young warriors were beginning their journeys. "You know what this means," he said, "that the program is working." "No." "Well, yes, but that's not what I mean." He looked at her with those sharp eyes that had seen everything and forgotten nothing. "It means your brother's death changed not just your life, but potentially hundreds of lives. Thousands, if this program grows the way it should. One man's sacrifice, one family's grief, turned into a force multiplier for an entire generation of warriors." He shook his head slowly. "That's legacy, Maya. That's the real thing." Maya felt the familiar tightness in her throat that came whenever she thought about David. But underneath the grief, something else had grown over the years, something warmer and more permanent. Not acceptance exactly. You never fully accepted losing someone that much. But a kind of purpose forged from loss, a direction that emerged from the darkest place she had ever been. She looked up at the sky above Coronado. It was clear and blue and impossibly wide, the Pacific glittering in the distance, The same ocean that had watched her grow from a grieving 14-year-old into whoever she was now. An operator, a mentor, a program architect, a living argument against the idea that youth equals limitation. She was 20 years old. She had a lifetime of missions still ahead of her. And somewhere out there, in the mountains of Afghanistan or the jungles of the Philippines or the deserts of Mali or a dozen other places where darkness gathered and good people were asked to push it back, the skill she had helped teach, the program she had helped build, the legacy she was still creating, all of it would one day show up in moments of crisis and save lives that would never know her name. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Behind her, Briggs put a hand briefly on her shoulder, a rare gesture from a man who expressed everything through discipline and almost nothing through touch. Your brother would be proud, kid. Maya smiled. I know, Gunny. I know. She walked back toward the graduates, back toward the wake, back toward the beginning of everything that came next. Because the mission was never finished. The mission only changed shape, and Maya Chen had learned, in blood and dust and lonely overwatch positions on Afghan mountains, that the people who made the most difference were not the ones who made the most noise or earned the most medals. They were the ones who showed up every single day, did the difficult work without complaint, and trusted completely in what they had built inside themselves. Trusted themselves when the crosshays wavered, when the doubters whispered, when the distance seemed impossible and the window was only 8 inches wide and the whole world was watching. She had fired that shot once. She would spend the rest of her life teaching others how to fire theirs. And somewhere in the clear blue sky above the Pacific, she imagined David smiling. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of courage, sacrifice, and the warriors who protect us all. Every week we bring you the most extraordinary tales from the world of military service, stories of men and women who faced the impossible and chose to push forward anyway. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a story that deserves to be told. Thanks for watching.